Every now and again, you have an amplifier land on your bench where the repairs to the amplifier outweigh the monetary value of the amp. And this is one such amplifier. This is a Sears Silvertone, which was given to me to attempt to restore and repair to see if I could get it going. And this is something. This is going to need a ton of work. I just want to show you. The metal is rusted on the front panel, as you can see, right? The front panel actually rusting. And I got a test piece here, which shows that it is salvageable. Obviously, the camera doesn't really capture it. If I get on an angle, you can see the metal is salvageable to a great degree. The Tolex or the fabric is stained terribly, right? These are completely rusted out. Something like that. Those caps you just replaced, but short of that, this is just filthy, right? And I did a test area, and I wanted to see what the material was, so I magnified. This little spot here I cleaned up, and looking at it, I actually see the material comes out rather nice. It requires quite a deep cleaning to pull that out of the grain. You could see how caked up it is, but most of it's pretty good, and some of it's nicked and scratched, so it becomes a patina, you know, especially on the corners. But as long as it could be salvaged, except for the corners that would be glued down, I would be okay with that. You know, cosmetically, this thing is going to need a lot of work indeed. And this is not just the electronics. I'm just talking about the cabinet itself. I haven't even gotten into the electronics. These are all crusty. Oh boy. Just the knob restoration is going to be something. The cabinet too is going to be some work. That's going to be a lot of fabric cleanup. We're going to have to test the speaker inside. The cabinet obviously is mostly cosmetics. There's not a whole lot of electronics going on in there. And the front grille cover. The inside does not look much better. Yeah, the fuse got busted out of there. That's no big deal. But here's the model, 1484 Sears Roebuck and Company. There's the boilerplate right there for the unit. Way back up in here, there's the reverb tank in there. When I was picking up this amp, this tube right here, there's a 12AX7 Silvertone logo here, was stuffed all the way in the back of the amp. And sure enough, I put this on the Hickok 6000 and it tested really good. So that's pretty cool. And I'm looking here, and I think these look like original Silvertone tubes. These look kind of crusty. Oh God. Jesus. Yeah, it's gonna be something. This is gonna be something. We're gonna have to restore this. We're gonna have to. I'm expecting a complete recap and some part fixes, right? And a whole lot of elbow grease, but I don't want to go in several $100s on this thing. Light on inside the cabinet, I get a good reference of what that material looked like when it was brand new. So there's a nice view of that. I can make that comparison of the area I cleaned. Yeah, definitely. If I could get the cabinet outside looking like that and not concern myself with the metal pieces of the corners, this would definitely be in good shape for the cabinet. I'm just loving the old 2-prong power cord. The first thing I can do is I'm just going to take these tubes out here, the 6FQ7. No particular order. I'm just making sure they got a label on them and the chassis label is visible. The finals on this are original Silvertone 6L6s combination with animal feces and dust. And this brand new Electro Harmonix 12AX7 back here. What is this doing here? This is out of place. We can see the wiring here is looking just fantastic. Silvertone. Yeah, these are all original. Wow. Silvertone. This one looks also like it's a Silvertone as well, the one that came out of here. A quick look shows that it's possible that rats have moved inside here at some point. Okay, we're gonna unscrew it. This is a 1/4 inch nuts from the bottom hold this on. I can see that I'm actually spinning my wheels here. I'm gonna have to put something in there to stop that from turning. And another one. Luckily, the one back there seems to be holding. No, it isn't. Wait, maybe. There we go. Close enough. There it is. Bring this right out to the outside. I don't even want this in the house. So the inside here looks surprisingly clean. Look at this. It's very nice, right? You see an oxide layer, or it just could be a wax, I don't know, has formed on all the electrolytic capacitors. Look at that, right? You can see the diodes in there, right? Look at this white layer that's formed on here. And it's not contamination. I mean, this thing is clean. Look at this wax cap here. I mean, clean as a whistle down here. I am impressed, right? From the underside, this bad boy is salvageable. And if we look up here, we can see we can see 25 microfarads right here. This is clearly cathode biased, okay? Not fixed biased. So this will be interesting. Solid state rectifiers we saw before. Doesn't look like anything's been done here. Doesn't look like anything got in here save some spider webs. So I'm very happy about this, right? And there's a lot of room to work. So this is good news. It's almost like it was like a coating that has long since dried up from the cap. Litacap, I haven't heard of this company, so I could get the values from it. It's all I really need. So I'm going to pull the remnants of this rat's nest out of here. I wonder if we get a date off of this newspaper. I doubt it, but it wasn't that bad. So that's cleaned out. I'm looking at the inside of this box now, and I'm changing my tune. It most likely was not a rat, because there's no rat droppings in here. So some newspaper stuffed in there. Maybe some bugs, a whole lot of dirt, but definitely not any rats or varmints or whatnot. There we go. Now it's clean enough to be allowed back in my house. This is not my favorite part by any means, but this is pretty rewarding. I've cleaned up this first half of the chassis up to the power transformer, and to give you an idea of what clean is on this, we need only look at what the chassis looked like before I started. Here's the other half. Right? So coming back to this is clean, and this is done hand over hand, but this is cleaned. Even the cables and wires are cleaned. Even the broken wires that need to be pulled up and then repaired, whatever this may be, is cleaned up. Something like this one's not too bad. I may leave this one alone, right? You know, if it works, obviously let it go. This one, I may take the caps off and repaint it, right? Because this is extremely rusty. Just blast it, sandblast it, prime it and paint it, call it a day. So it's not perfect, and I'm limited in the amount of metal I can cut, you know, because it is chrome plated, so I can't go to town on this thing, right? But I'm definitely pulling a shine out of it. And here it is after the face of the metal's reworked, and actually this is where I was really working, right? The ends, it starts to taper off. So it's painful, it's slow. Not too slow. It'll be slow by the letters because it's silk screened. But I think I could definitely get what looks like, you know, like old school patina. It's seen some days, but it's not disgusting looking kind of look back into this thing. So this is what I'm doing. I dropped it down to 1500, and after I clean it up, I'm putting a very, very mild grain in there. You can see it now. And what that does is this: when light is not shining on it, right, it still has sort of a mirror look to it. You know, it's shiny, but when you get the light on it, it refracts it instead of reflects it. So you still get that brushed metal look. I've only done this piece up here. Don't look down here, right? So it has that brushed metal sort of look to it. And then what I'm going to do, I'll also point out that it does good to pull all that the garbage out of the metal, right? Because I'm down on 1500 to do this, right? You can see all along there I put a nice grain in. And I'm going to put a couple coats of carnauba on top of that metal now, and see what it does. Right now it is just cleaned bare metal. I'm going to get really close. You can see how nice that came out. I mean, that looked pitted and rusted like that. You know, there's some sections where you can still see like a little bit. This is just a test piece, but let's see how it looks with wax on it. A couple coats of wax. I just have a small section here I'm doing just to compare, not the entire length. That looks real nice. I think one or two, I think another coat or two on there will do the job. It's hard to see the wax, but you can definitely feel it when you pull it with your finger across there. You could feel where the wax is and where it ends, but looking at it not in the camera, you could see that there is a difference in the sheen slightly. So I'm going to put another coat on. I'm going to coat the entire length of this and then take a look again. This area has now been resurfaced again. I've added of the first coat of wax. I could do testing for comparison purposes against this side right here that has not yet been touched. Of course, with the wax, as you go and you change the angle just like that, it turns into like a mirror. But that's at a really high angle of incidence, as you see. Started taking out these knobs. They're going to have to be cleaned separately, so I've removed them from the potentiometers. More metal work going on here as I do a new section, especially here with this tape removal. Testing wax, obviously, to see how end product looks. Also, this section here, this is a painted area. I have cleaned just a small section here, and I'm applying a first coat of wax on that. It was a heavy oxidation on that paint. We'll see how that comes out as well. This is what I came up with in the end. I still got to put another coat of wax on it. I didn't worry about the areas directly around the holes where the knobs are going to cover. You have to balance out the work you're going to do versus the risk of removing any painted areas. Some of the painted letters got damaged by the tape that was on the unit. There was simply nothing I could do when there was no paint there. I didn't beat myself up over that. Other than that, you know, 99% of the paint remained. I was able to remove all of the rust. Depending on how the light refracts off it, I was able to make sure there wasn't too much overshine where it didn't belong, and yet the front face, all of the rust is removed and now it's sealed up. So I'm calling that pretty good, nice patina, and I'm moving on to the next step. Also, because of how the grain is, depending on how the light reflects, it sort of has a reflection or a refraction, as you see here as I sort of move the camera back and forth. I've also been working on this side too as well. We can see how the case is progressing, right? So this piece has been completed. I'm still working on it. I still see some sort of dark spots in there, but they're all but removed. Again, this is patina. It's not supposed to be brand new, but if you compare it to what it used to look like, you know, and I'll get really, really close. We get to the inner chassis. We're talking about aluminum. This is much easier to work with. This is the unrestored section right here, and I have already gone to town on the other side, except for the transformer, but we could see this is already polished, waxed, and everything. I've gotten into all sorts of stuff. There's a little patina there. You can see some oxidizations, left some marks there, and that's fine, but look at that. That's nice and clean. The outside, I really went to town on. There's nice and shiny aluminum. And just for comparison purposes of the outside, right here at the middle point, we can see what it used to look like. So, yeah, big difference. I did start doing some test work on the tank. It is aluminum, so that should be easy to cosmetically fix. I hope the tank works. I'm going to have to test it. Also, this is a this capacitor right here. This is a 3-cap electrolytic. I'm thinking what I'm going to do, I'm going to look under it. I'm going to leave this here. I'm going to clean this up, make this look nice, and then I'm going to cut it out of circuit and put 3 capacitors under the unit. The bottom of the cap right here, I got a ton of room to work. I don't see any problem with dropping 3 capacitors right here off the bottom, so that should be just fine. Started doing a test piece here on this side. It's coming out very nicely. You can see the contrast between the restored and unrestored sections of aluminum. But I see that I'm going to have to remove this reverb tank as it is getting in the way, and obviously the bracket's going to have to be done. The tank's going to have to be cleaned off unit. And more importantly, I'm going to have to get in there and make sure that tank works. So we can see those 2 yellow wires are connecting the tank here into circuit from that side. Again, another 2 on that side. So we're going to pull that out. I'm going to mark it left and right and remove it. Mark a small L on this side for left. It's just a mark. It'll just tell me which way it's going to go in. Worst case scenario, I can review this video for positioning. There's an abundance of service loop left on both sides. I'm just going to clip it right out of circuit, not even worry about it. Be soldered in at the end of the project. Now get some oil in these nuts right here. Let that soak in before I try and remove them. Did not want to come off without a fight. I used a driver. Luckily, I was able to break them free after soaking them in oil without damaging anything, but they did come off. There we go. So I have a nut and a lock washer on each side. And there it is. We can open this up and have a look. This springy metal bracket will also be removed, sanded, repainted, reinstalled. This thing is just fine, just a little rusty, that's all. It turns out that these are just sheet metal screws, no nuts on the bottom. So with that, the bracket's removed. This pretty much gives me exposure to this whole side of the unit for cleaning, maintenance, and what have you. I really got to get the cleaning portion done on this. The cabinet cleaning is a whole other story, but the thing is that the bench is an absolute nightmare. It's disgusting. I can't really do any electronics work. So once I get this portion done, where all of this cleaning is done, this chassis will be moved away. The entire bench is going to be cleaned, vacuumed, scrubbed, everything back to brand new, and then I'll start back on the electronics components. Hit a stopping point where no more abrasives are being used, and I blew out everything with canned air, especially the tube sockets, though they are going to be cleaned individually with the mini brush that I use for cleaning out these sockets. Meanwhile, indoors, the entire workbench area has been completely cleaned up, sanitized, vacuumed, scrubbed, and everything. So we're going to bring this back in now. Bench is all clean, the amp is cleaned out, and I would like to remove the fuse socket here before I do the final polishing, just so I could work across where that socket is. It's just coming out anyway, it's broken. When it comes time, an identically sized new one will go right in. I'm going to take off the caps of this power transformer right now. They came off real easy because they've been soaking in oil all night. And right now, all I've done is loosen the 4 side screws. I still have to remove these screws from the chassis. I've carefully removed the screws that hold it to the base. It wasn't so easy getting under there, holding the bottom secure without letting the transformer slide off. This green wire snips right from here. I just leave a little lead just to be sure. These 2 twisted green and yellow wires will snip right here from this common. Got these 2 yellow wires, trace them down here, comes off to this tube socket over here. I could see one connection going to here, the other one with one hell of a shine, look at that, going to here. So I'm going to snip those 2. For the bottom portion, one black wire went to the fuse, which is currently missing, and the other black wire goes to the power switch. Snip that out now. I got 2 solid reds that come out and go right to here. We can see these both are going to be snipped off. And pull that out. On this side, the front facing side right here, I got red with yellow dash, and those connect to these 2. I'm going to snip those out. Pull those out of the unit. With that, I've safely removed power transformer with no damage whatsoever. Also was then able to remove these covers, which can be sanded and painted. They'll be reinstalled as part of the transformer reinstallation. And clean the junk out from under here right quick. This doesn't need to be highly polished, it's going to be covered, but we'll clean it up anyway. Also, while this transformer is out, it'll go on the Variac where it will be tested and ensure that everything is okay. This is the cheapest tank I've ever seen in my life. I really don't know what to make of it. I'm going to check the connectivity. If it works, it works. But wow. Got this shined up nice. So I'm looking at the schematic diagram here, and though it doesn't show the colors of the transformer, it does show the resistance of the windings, which I find quite useful for troubleshooting. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the known windings first, right? I know the black is the input from mains. I'm going to test that one first, and I know that that's 3.7 ohms. These are quite specific, so I've taken out the impedance bridge right? And I got it all set up, and it's currently at 2.5, so I'm going to ramp it up. It's very sensitive and very accurate. So we'll just keep ramping up this needle. You can see the needle is slow to react, and we're at 3.5. I think it just crossed the threshold right there. And we were 3.6, 3.7. This is showing 3.8, and we've just crossed the threshold. So it's probably like 3.75. So it is pretty much on the money. You know, you could add the resistance for the cable, but it's minimal on these cables. I've tested them. So that shows the primary winding to be good as far as resistance goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and try and establish the other ones. I dialed in red, and I see a 5.7, just over 5.7, and I look on the sheet to see if I could find something, and sure enough, I do see a 5.75 right there. It's a good chance that it is that one, right? So I'll say that at least there's a good possibility. I know there's another 6.2 and a 3.7, so let's see what we get. I put it on red, yellow, and the needle moves ever so slightly, and I got a feeling that it's just going to be above 6.2. We're going to see that happen. So I'm just going to bring it right there in a position and see if it falls into place. And sure enough, right there, yeah, right on the money. 6.2, just like it indicates on the paper, is red, yellow. Sometimes I get asked how I know if the jacket on the electrical wires is asbestos or not. You know, and it does look like asbestos. And you never can be sure, obviously, unless you know how to check for these sort of things. You don't want to inhale it and it could flake and get dusty and fly into the air, right? But very quickly and easily. That's synthetic. That's not asbestos. Oh, it is no good. Take a look at that. No change. Yeah, slight change at 100. If I disconnect, no change at all. We have an open on this transformer. We got a broken transformer on our hands. When all else fails, try and find the break point where it comes into the transformer. And it was worth it, because right between here and here is an open. So I'm going to make a new connection off of this, a new pigtail, and then I'm going to tape up this transformer where I did this damage, lay on some shellac, and then I'm going to retest.